Welcome to Sound of Hope News. My name is Daniela Wolensack, and today is August 8th. In retaliation for U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, the Chinese military has begun provoking Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party's aggression triggered an international outcry. Currently, more than 300 international government members from over 40 countries have spoken out for Taiwan. The foreign ministers of the Group of Seven and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations separately issued statements urging the Chinese Communist Party to stop military exercises immediately. European Union Executive Committee Vice President and High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Borrell repeated why he rejects unilateral changes to the status quo by force. The president of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the French National Assembly, Jean-Louis Boulanger, the president of the Czech Senate and Assembly, the speaker of the Lithuanian Parliament, the vice presidents of the European Parliament, the Slovak, Danish, and Swedish parliaments, the president of the British House of Commons, the Australian Senate, and the German Foreign Affairs Committee, and many other heavyweight members of parliaments from around the world, have also shown strong support for Taiwan's democratic values. Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and former governor of Florida, called on the U.S. government to end its strategic ambiguity policy toward Taiwan. He described that only early and comprehensive action can make a difference. He reintroduced the Prevention of Invasion of Taiwan Act, reiterating that the United States must help strengthen Taiwan and raise its profile on the world stage. He argued that trade agreements without strong strategic military backing are insufficient to deter Communist China. He also suggested the United States must stand with Taiwan and use a truly effective integrated deterrence strategy, meaning both arms and trade. He criticized the Biden administration's unwillingness to embrace this necessary two-pronged strategy as a threat to U.S. national security and the future of Taiwan's democracy. According to the well-known American scholar of China studies, Andrew J. Nathan, a crisis in the Taiwan Strait is bound to happen sooner or later. The decisive factor in changing from strategic ambiguity to strategic clarity is whether the U.S. demonstrates a credible military deterrent to the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese military suddenly announced on August 7th that its Eastern War Theater will continue the military exercises in the sea and airspace surrounding Taiwan. Analysts explained that the Chinese Communist Party's announcement may be in response to the return of the USS Reagan carrier strike group to the South China Sea. According to this China Central Television News Weibo account, the Eastern War Theater exercises focused on testing air-to-ground strikes and the capabilities of long-range air strikes. However, the Weibo bulletin did not say when the exercises would end. The Chinese army seems like it's trying to encircle Taiwan indefinitely. Chinese media reported that the USS Ronald Reagan originally detoured around the Chinese exercises and left the South China Sea on its way back to its base in Japan. However, news came out on the 6th that USS Reagan had turned back and headed back towards the South China Sea. At the same time, China also announced live-fire military exercises in the Bohai Sea and Yellow Sea. All ships were prohibited from entering these waters. Veteran military observer Qi Le-yi said, quote, "The scope of these military exercises has compressed Taiwan's territorial waters. This development will create great pressure on future defense of the islands of Taiwan, Penghu, Kinmen, and Mazu. This means that the United States' commitment to Taiwan needs to enter a more substantive stage." After the historic visit to Taiwan by U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, tensions between China and the self-governed island have escalated. Taiwan is home to 23 million people and has its own democratically elected government. However, China views the island as part of its territory and has vowed to take it back one day, by force if necessary. Beijing also tries to keep Taiwan isolated on the world stage and opposes countries having official exchanges with Taipei. Amid the heightened tensions, the research analyst at London's Royal United Services Institute, Samuel Cranny Evans, pointed out how Beijing could force Taiwan into submission. He writes, "There are two scenarios. The first is a naval blockade. This would be a serious challenge for an island nation that relies on its ports for survival." According to the Food and Fertilizer Technology Center for the Asian and Pacific region, Taiwan's food supply relies heavily on international trade. It has a high population density, and its food production is insufficient. The labor force population is declining year by year due to the low fertility rate and aging population. In 2018, Taiwan's food self-sufficiency rate was only 35%. A naval blockade would enable China to deny Taiwan vital food and minerals, while simultaneously presenting a defensive nightmare for the US, Taiwan, and any partners trying to break the blockade. The goal will be to coerce Taiwan into accepting China's will. In the second scenario, China's vast army would embark on an amphibious invasion of Taiwan in a similar fashion to the D-Day landings. This scenario might happen as an extension of the naval blockade. Cranny Evans estimated this invasion would require between 500,000 and 1 million personnel, as well as the transport ships, to get them to Taiwan, including a mix of Navy and civilian vessels. At some point, the airspace over the Taiwan Strait would be closed, and China's Army, Air Force, and Navy would begin a massed air and missile attack. Furthermore, battles would be fought silently over the internet, with massed cyber attacks from both sides crippling government websites, banks, and even military command systems. Whatever the outcome, a Chinese invasion of Taiwan would be unimaginably violent and greater in scale than any amphibious assault conducted to date. The tropical Chinese city of Sanya is a popular vacation destination, but now about 80,000 tourists are trapped there. On Saturday, Sanya confirmed over 260 positive COVID cases, and the city entered a lockdown at 6 a.m. on August 6th. Authorities canceled all flights and trains out of the city. People are required to stay in their homes, hotels, and out of public areas. Sanya is located on the island of Hainan, known as China's Hawaii. Today, the lockdown was extended across several cities after more than 500 cases were recorded on the island. Haikou is the provincial capital and has a population of nearly 3 million people. According to state media, it is now under lockdown, and about 7 million people have been told to stay at home unless they're getting food and COVID tests. The Sanya airport was notified that the terminal could allow people into the city, but not into flights. Passengers stranded at the airport were transferred to hotels to await follow-up. According to Surf News, on August 6th, Ms. Tsai, who wished to remain anonymous, and her family of 5 vacationers from Shanghai waited on the plane for more than 2 hours before finally being asked to get off the plane. She said, "This is too torturous." At around 2:00 p.m., about 200 passengers were informed by the flight crew to go to the terminal to wait in groups. At 3:45 p.m. on the same day, Ms. Tsai said that she was sent to an isolation hotel and may have to isolate for 7 days. Many passengers were at the airport counter shouting, "I want to go home. We did nucleic acid testing. We are in line with the requirements. Why don't you let us go home?" The city closure also hit local tourism businesses. Many scenic areas have been closed. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban spoke at the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, from August 4th to 6th in Dallas. On August 4th, Orban told the crowd that Hungary defeated communism and now America is fighting for its life against communist progressive liberals and globalists. Orban praised the independence and freedom of the host state of Texas, where CPAC was being held, and referred to Hungary as the Lone Star State of Europe. He also stated that mass immigration is a globalist goal. Orban pointed out that the border wall that Hungary built during the European migrant crisis in 2015 helped reduce illegal immigration to zero. The wall was constructed to stem the flow of illegal immigration and steer potential immigrants toward official checkpoints in order to claim asylum in Hungary, in accordance with international and European law. In addition, Orban said that he believes the United States and Hungary are fighting a common enemy on two fronts. Together, they can defeat the Marxist movement that is trying to destroy Western civilization. He described it as a culture war that must be fought to win. On August 6th, CNN's Beijing correspondent Selena Wang produced a video news report on the Chinese Communist Party's current strict epidemic policies. The report blamed the Chinese authorities for turning the previously bustling city of Beijing into a ghost town. In the video, Wang shared her own experience to show the daily life of ordinary citizens in Beijing. Almost all public activities have been suspended indefinitely. Only nucleic acid testing is still open, but Beijing has only a few or dozens of new cases per day, according to official reports. Former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, who has 6.4 million followers, commented in the thread on Wang's news on August 6th. He wrote only 3 words: end the CCP. It means end the Chinese Communist Party. Dorsey's short statement was a nice surprise to many netizens. Many joined the thread, "I'm so happy that Jack finally woke up." And how exactly do you suggest end them, Jack? If Dorsey was sincere, then congratulations to him on finally seeing the true evil. And God bless him. A netizen also provided a reminder. This is anti-communism, not anti-Chinese. Thank you so much for listening to Sound of Hope News. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. See you tomorrow.